Pagan Shooter here. I thought I would go over something that's kind of basic. However, new shooters may not understand how the whole aiming part of the gun works. Everybody kind of understands you point this end of the gun down the range or at the target, but how does the aiming actually work? By the way, every single one of these guns is empty. I have safety checked them multiple times before we even start. I can pull the trigger on these guns and be 100% confident they're not going to go off. All of the ammo is up there and not even on the table. So before any of you safety Nazis come after me, they're all safety checked. So getting back to the subject, how do you aim? Most people who have been shooting for a long time take it for granted that they already know, and some people actually even do it differently than the average person. The idea behind aiming is you're actually putting the front sight on your target. Much like a shotgun in that front bead, only the rear sight is lined up on a pistol or a rifle, and instead of just the back end of the shotgun. So, for example, if I was aiming with this gun, which is not really made for that, but if I'm aiming with this gun, you'll notice that the sights on this are very minimalistic. I would put the front sight on my target, or just below my target, and I would line the rear sights up so the front and rear sights were even. It's too hard to do on this camera, so I'm not going to be able to do that. And then I would put the front sight would be just below the target. My focus, my visual focus, would be on the front sight. So the front sight would actually be my marker of where I'm aiming to. So as I'm aiming down my arm, down the matching up the front sight with the rear sights, with my focus on the front sight, and the whole shebang back here is just below my target. And that is how I focus in all of my weapons. Now, there are different sights. I just showed you this one. It's very minimalistic. They're very short. There's no markings on these sights. Some people actually will put a little fingernail polish on the front, so it stands out. Then you've got sights like on the 22 here, and the rear sight would be adjustable. It's just a little plate in there that's cut out that moves around, is adjustable, but it's the same basic principle. You line up the rear sights with the front. Front sight is your main focus, and where you're going to place it is just below where you're shooting. So it's kind of like framing the bottom of what you're shooting. Once again, you also have minimalistic sights on the revolver. In fact, without the hammerback, you can't even see the back sight. This is going to be a very minimalistic. This is a non-adjustable sight. The sight is just this little piece back here, just right down that. But once again, the same principle. You line up the back sight with the front sight, focuses on the front sight, put it just below what you're shooting, and hold it as steady as possible. You have other sights that are drift sights, like this 1911. Very minimalistic sights as far as contrast of colors. The front, some people actually put nail polish on to help out. And once again, you line up your focus on the front sight, line up with the rear sight, and put it just below what you're shooting at. You also have light reactive sights like this. These would be considered night sights. These are kind of worn. They're still good, some. And really, during the day, they just look like minimalistic sights. They don't really have too much contrast. But at night, they actually light up, and you can see like a little beam of light. What it does is it captures a little bit of light. And then you have sights like this, which are contrast just by the dots on them, which in this case, you have a white front sight and two white dot sights in the back, and you just line up the dots and put it just below your target. So that's the basic idea behind aiming. Obviously, you have other situations where aiming isn't always a possibility. With something like this in self-defense, your aiming is really going to be just down the slope of the gun. You don't have time to get a sight picture. You don't have time to line up your sights, aim, get focus, unless you've got that extra. And if you do have that, then you probably can escape without shooting somebody. But in a self-defense situation, you're really just going to be looking down and lining up the top of the gun with what you want to shoot and trying to get that on sight picture as steady as possible. You won't, in most self-defense situations, you won't have time to aim down sights. And that would be the same with any one of these pistols. You want to get the top of your weapon on target, as lined up and as flat as possible, and you basically are just going to be sighting down it. Now, if it's a situation where there's a standoff, you definitely would have the situation where you could aim. But your focus is not wanting to be laser focused onto this in that situation. So aiming in a very focused manner is very good at the range, but in a self-defense situation, you want to be aware of everything that's going on around you, not just your target. You do want to be aware of what they're doing and make sure that they're not going to do something that's going to harm you, but in this situation, you would want to make sure you are aware of what's going on around you. So what do you suggest for aiming? Do you have a particular stance you like to have? Do you disagree with the way I aim? What does you focus on in a self-defense situation? Go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share this video. Let me know what you think. This is Pagan Shooter. Till next time.